So
What do you think about the topic that I chose? I was a little bit in doubt that, is it a good topic?
I think it's excellent.
Okay, super.
Yeah. I mean, you put yourself on the line. So
Yeah, I
without
always
ado,
do that. I don't understand why, but I always do that.
well, let's get down to it. So I'll start out. Okay. We ready?
Ready.
Welcome to Beyond Leadership, adopting a coaching mindset. In this series, our conversations aren't about biography or polished advice. They're about how decisions are made in the real world when the pressure is on. We'll anchor on one situation where the path wasn't obvious and explore what goes on in the mind of a leader when confronted with real trade-offs, imperfect information, and the need to move anyway. This podcast is brought to you by Peer Plaza. Human help, instantly. I'm sitting down with Juliette Guldberg, the CEO of Job Vision, a company that offers career development and counseling for both job seekers and employers. Juliette built Job Vision over 3 decades, sold part of it in 2018, and then found herself carrying the business while a partner stopped contributing and wouldn't step aside. What followed wasn't a clean turnaround story, but a long stretch of constraint, stalled performance, and decisions with no good options. Today, we're talking about the moment she realized that saving the company meant risking everything she'd built. So welcome to the program, Juliette. Should I call you Juliette, like the Danish way? And probably I'm just killing the Danish, but why don't you pronounce your name for everybody in Danish, first of all?
Okay, I will say it in French because it's a French name.
Of course it is. And I really wanted to impress her with my Danish pronunciation. C'est la vie.
My name is Juliette Guldberg.
Juliette. Here I am trying to make it into Danish because
nobody in Denmark has that.
But you are Danish, right?
Yeah, my mom was French, so that's why.
Okay, Juliette. So and what do people say in Denmark?
Everything. Yeah, I have a lot of names, and I'm just saying yes every time. If someone says correctly, I'm getting confused. So
okay. So every once in a while somebody will call you Juliette, but a Danish way of saying it would be
Juliette. Jeanette.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Jeanette.
Yeah.
Pretty far away. Okay, so I'm going to call you Juliette. The way your mother might call you with my terrible French. And why don't you set the scene for our story? Tell me about the constraint that we're focused on today.
The scene is that sometimes we as a CEO think we're working very, very hard to make up a solution because we used to find solutions. And sometimes we think we know the solution to a problem, and once in a while we end in a dead road, and we work too hard to solve the problem, so we won't get solved. So you're making a difficult situation much more difficult than it has to be because you can't see clearly. I think that was the scene for me. I was totally blind and scared of losing the company, scared of the future.
When had you joined the company?
I started working in the company 14 years ago, bought it with my partner in 2017. But it's an old company, so I think we have to have a lot of respect for the company's age, size.
It had a big legacy over 30 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so when did you first realize that your partner had effectively stopped contributing?
It took me a while because he has a lot of excuses about the market. We were lucky that we owned the company due to COVID. And it was a very, very difficult time because 80% of our clients stopped sending orders to us due to COVID.
Oh.
So it was a rough time. So it took me some time to see that he was closing sites around his area and was always saying that it was due to that I had an area that was much more easy to get orders than in his area. And I was like, that was a little bit strange because he had the biggest part of Denmark where there is a lot more companies in the part that I have. I had Jutland with a lot of space around the cities. So it took me a while, but his excuses got worse and worse. And I began to see he had some physical reactions when he was lying to me. So it actually to me, I think I used 1.5 years before the reality hit me. And I was like, okay, he's not contributing. He's doing this on purpose because he doesn't care.
It's one thing to uncover the wrongdoing of an employee, but the moment it dawns on you that a partner has stepped outside the relationship, whether personal or professional, a cold chill runs down your spine, followed by a moment of pure disbelief.
And I think it was because we got a lot of money. We sold 1/3 of the company to a very, very, very big company just before COVID. And we got a lot of money privately. And I think his reality check on that was when the money wasn't there anymore, I will get a new good idea and sell the company for overpriced to some genius and he will get some more money. But that wasn't the situation because I'm valuing myself very much. So I won't go out to sell a bad company to somebody I know. So I was like, it was really difficult. So I was talking to my network. I've been in some investor groups and I was like, how can I do this? How can I do it in a proper way? How can I secure the company? What do I do?
Because you were considering either resigning, bankruptcy, or some sort of a takeover, right?
Yeah, but it took me a while to get to resigning or the bankruptcy. I was like, it's my responsibility as a CEO to look at the company and secure that people get their money. But it took me a while to face the beast. It was really a rough time. I was sad. And at the same time, I had staff members around Denmark and I had to make them believe in the project and they keep it a secret was the worst part. Going around look like everything is okay and he's a good partner was the worst part for me. At one point, some of the staff went to me and said, what is going on here? Because he's closing all the sites and he's losing staff and he's losing orders. What are we doing? What is going on? And at that point, I was like, okay, they see and hear everything. So I really had to work fast and I had to work fast because he didn't have orders enough to take care of all his expenses. So it was like just seeing your money go out the window, and I was running faster and faster and faster and getting more and more broken. So it was really difficult. So I talked to the lawyers and I said, what do I do in this situation? I'm totally broken down now. I don't know what to do. The company is worthless right now from my point of view. And they were like, quit, just quit.
Yeah, I was thinking that was going to come. Many of us have endured difficult moments that feel like nightmares, but this situation is particularly bleak. What makes it even more troubling is that Juliette's partner has walked away, leaving her to face the entire ordeal alone.
Yeah, just walk away from it all and see it all burned down. I can't do that. I have
Well,
staff that's relying on me.
what would bankruptcy have meant for you personally?
Nothing. That's the worst part. Nothing. I have nothing to lose if it went bankrupt, but I'm not like that.
It wouldn't have affected you financially, but
No.
it certainly would have affected you emotionally.
Yeah,
and,
my pride.
and your values and your pride.
Yeah, my pride and my values. I think that was my worst enemies was my pride and my values. I was struggling with myself, facing the beast, facing the situation. And it was tough because I'm also a wife, a mother. So when I went home, I just had to park it all and just be the mother and the wife. At the same time, I was just finding no solutions. I was just running around like a hen without a head. It was terrible.
So, and how long did that go on for?
It took me 5 years.
5 years. Let that sink in for a moment. That's enough time for a child to go from birth to riding a bicycle. Long enough to complete both a bachelor's and a master's degree. WhatsApp was acquired by Facebook for $19 billion 5 years after it was founded. It's a long time to stick around a floundering company. Wow.
Yeah.
Looking back at those 5 years that you spent where you might have spent maybe one of them closing down the company and 4 building up something else, any regrets there? Do you think that it might have gone well both ways? Do you think that the decision you made to continue on was so much the right decision? Is it so black and white?
No, it's not. I hope it's the right decision because now we are making a turnaround with the company. So I hope I made the right decision. But a lot of people were like, close the company and start by yourself because you are the company. And I was like, no, I'm not the company, just me. I have the consultants who are doing a very, very great job. We have very satisfied customers. We're different in the market. And I was like, I don't just want to go out and copy paste that. It's like giving your child away, I think. It was terrible.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to know if our emotional responses should be counted as much as the economic ones, because as you said, you had a family to feed. And it's interesting that you also say that I hope that it was the right decision, not that it definitely was the right decision. I like that because if we don't put some doubt into that, then we're not really thinking all the way through, right? Because we don't know. We don't know what would have happened the other way if you had left the company. We do know that you would have disappointed a lot of people. That we do know. But we don't know if you could have made it up to them in a different way in a different company. But that road, you went down the path that you felt was the most important. And I want to ask you, what made this decision unavoidable for you? If it comes down to one thing, what was the thing that made you say, I'm not cutting and running? I don't care what the lawyers say.
It was the solution. The strategic, I'm very skilled as strategic. So I had to, if somebody has seen the series House of Cards, we were playing, it was a part of House of Cards, not my values, but it was necessary to get the company. So the solution was for me the answer to what I would have to do, but I had to give the company up first in my heart. I had to take the decision, if this strategy doesn't work, I will have to leave. And when I took that decision, the solution just worked.
What do you attribute that to? How do you think it just worked?
I think sometimes if you're trying to hold on to something too tight, the solutions won't come. But sometimes if you let go and be honest with yourself and asking yourself, is this a way to go, and you let it go. Sometimes a solution will come, but you can't see a solution when you're holding on that tight, as I was.
You had to negotiate with your partner.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was fine for me because I have lost everything I thought positively about him. So I was just like, I just need to get him out of the company. I just need to get him as far away from Job Vision as possible. That part wasn't difficult. The difficult part was to be a civilized person all the way through. To this day, today, he doesn't know what happened. He doesn't know that I didn't believe in him. He doesn't know I knew he lied. He doesn't know anything because I played it clean all the way.
What do you think you learned about partnering?
It's difficult because there will always be one part who feels they are left alone with something. I think our lawyer said to us that it's difficult to be more than one in a company. And I spoke with a lot of people, and it's very rare I hear that in a company you can be two-person.
Well, at the same time, the statistics show that when you have two owners of a company, there's more success for the company because you have at least one person sparring with you, so that some of your great ideas don't actually see the light of day to your betterment. So today, your partners, or I suppose how many partners do you have today?
It's an investment company where there's 20 investors in it.
You're the CEO, but you have no operating partners.
No.
Okay. Well, that makes it easier for you to make all those decisions, and it also makes it tougher for you to have to take responsibility for the decisions you make.
Yeah, but I have my board now, and that's the game changer for me. So
tell me more about that.
When I sold 35% to them, I could finally get a professional board. I didn't have that, and I've been yelling for that all the time that we have owned the company, that we need a professional board. We can spar with, we can talk to, they can say, yeah, great ideas, but have you thought about this and that? And now I have my foreman. He sees me and understands the way that I want to go, and he knows that I'm a hard worker and I can work on many projects at the same time. So he's like, okay, Julia, that's fine. But if we look at the strategic for the next 5 years, how does this idea fit in there? So I'm not alone anymore. I can call, in the 20 investors, I can say, I need something. If we wanted to make, I don't know what it's called in English. That's quite difficult for me. It's a
What is it in Danish?
Abonnement.
Subscription.
Yeah, if we wanted to change the company to a subscription company, I had one of the investors just sold his company, a very, very big one in Denmark, based on subscriptions. So I could spare with him, and he told me, if you want to go down that road, this has to be clear, and this has to be clear. And so in 1 week, I had my answer, if that was the right way to go, from a professional who really knew what it took to go there. So every time I go down a path, I have somebody I can call and say, how is it with this? Something you normally pay many, many thousand euros to get from others, I have for free because they're sitting in 35% ownership.
And exactly. And they want you to succeed.
Exactly.
And that's great. I often work with PE-backed executives, and oftentimes they're a little bit frightened of their boards. They often have strained relationships with their boards. And it's interesting, you have found a way to leverage your board.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because your board is so special, or do you think that you are open to taking the critique?
I think it is a bit of both. I'm open for the critique if they know I'm a no bullshitter, sorry. So if they're just saying, it doesn't feel right, I'm just like, okay, do I have a professional answer? Do you know something about? So for me, they're professional and they know that they have to take care of me. They're often saying, if you lose the belief in the company, we're losing. So we have to keep you happy. And I know there's a lot of misunderstanding about boards, and I've been sitting in a very, very big company in a board where we were just talking about getting lunch and looking at some numbers and just trash talking the CEO. And I was just like, pardon me, haven't we hired him to do the job? So now you're trash talking him. What is he gonna do with that? So I quit my board job at that time. I was just like, this is too stupid. But I think the more educated the board gets and understand their real assignment by sitting in a board.
Yeah, it's so
But
important. It's not just getting money from
no,
investors, it's getting all that knowledge and
exactly.
connections.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and change your board when your goal is set and you have to make new goals. Change the board so it fits the strategic. Yeah, so you have the right people.
Juliette raises an important point here. The role of a board is to safeguard the company's survival and support its long-term profitability. At the same time, the board has a responsibility to stand behind the CEO and provide the support necessary for effective leadership. I'm wondering, as a woman, do you think that you're able to accept the judgment of the board easier than a man?
No, I'm a drama queen inside. I'm not good at critic. I'm good at giving myself critics. So when somebody criticizes me, if it happens, I've been there myself and beating myself up. So no, I'm not. I'm just like a man. I don't think about the gender. If I one day doesn't fit in this chair that I'm sitting in, then we have to find another one who does. I don't think a CEO should sit in the chair for the rest of their life if they don't fit the strategic. So
just on the subject, do you think there are any disadvantages or advantages to being a woman in a company like yours?
the disadvantage is that you're always alone when you go to a network thing at night. It's like, okay, I'm alone again, no women. Everybody's talking about women's right, but where are the women when we stand out there at night? They're home with their kids. No, I think it's a person thing. I don't know. I'm not the right one to ask about that because I'm doing everything at home, building in the garden and everything. And my man is really great at playing FIFA, so I don't know. I'm not the right one to ask.
Another conversation.
Yeah, it's another conversation.
What's something that you used to be very certain of that you're not so certain of today?
I think actually I'm a little bit disappointed by myself that I went to a certain point where I want to quit something. I've never been a quitter. And suddenly I'm a little bit afraid of that point that I can quit something. That scares me. That was what scares me the most.
Is there a difference between being a quitter and being a stopper?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between those two things for you?
If you're naive or not. You can work so hard and you can kill yourself by working hard and you have to stop at some point. But I was just, oh my God, I have never gone to a point where I just said, enough is enough. I have to stop this. I think that was the worst part. And the biggest surprise where I surprised myself. And then the solution was a great surprise that I know people that sees me, that I'm not in my private inner circle. They see me and help me with the solution. I was so grateful and thankful every day that there are people out there helping each other like that.
And I'm just thinking, a lot of men are not as capable of showing their vulnerabilities as I think women are. And I think perhaps that could have been something that actually helped you in this situation where you were willing to be vulnerable, whereas your counterpart as a man might not have been. What do you think about that?
I don't agree. I think men in top level positions are really helping each other. I see it every day. But women in top positions are really tough ladies, and they're really tough on each other. It's a battlefield out there. I don't like it. I always say that there's only space for one female lion on the savannah. When you walk into a room, you spot her right away. I think women at my level are really, really tough, and men are much more helping each other, doing stuff in their spare time, taking care of each other. At that level, women are not.
At the same time, we were talking about vulnerability.
Yeah.
And you are able to be vulnerable, which allowed people to help you. And at the same time, do you think men tend to be as vulnerable as that? I don't mean to spend too much time on gender here, but I'm noticing that you were willing to ask for help. And when I think about men, not so much.
No, I don't see men not helping each other. I don't see them not asking.
Let me push back here, because I'm not asking about whether they help each other. I'm wondering if they ask for help.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't sit in the rooms where they do. Sometimes they ask me for help, for counseling, and I have a lot of men coming by. Yeah, because they're lost their job or are stressed or lost their way, and they're passing by my office to get some counseling. So I think men is getting more vulnerable and women are getting tougher.
Wow.
Yeah, I see a shift, a change in that. I will be afraid the day that it's the women who has all the top positions in the world. Really.
Juliette's position on male and female roles leaves me somewhat puzzled, yet it also seems to mirror the moment we're living in. We're in a period where traditional expectations are being questioned, redefined, and sometimes even rejected altogether. In that turbulence, perspectives can appear contradictory, caught somewhere between long-standing cultural patterns and emerging ideas about equality, identity, and power. Is there anything today that we didn't touch upon that you feel like you want to bring up before we close our session?
It depends on the people want to hear the solution, what the solution was.
We'd love to hear that.
Okay.
Ever wish you could just talk to someone who's been where you are? Not a chatbot, not ChatGPT or Gemini. A real human who gets it. That's Peer Plaza. Human help. Instantly. Whether you need a career coach, a leadership mentor, or someone to help you navigate a tough transition, Peer Plaza connects you with vetted professionals ready to help right now. Browse profiles, watch intro videos, and book a session. Just like that. Visit peerplaza.com, because the best advice still comes from real people.
I've been in an investment group, and I turned to one of the investment men I've been in the group with, and I was talking to him and talking about my vision with that vision. And he was like, "Oh my God, Juliette, you have catch something great there. It's big. We want to go with you. We want to be a part of that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Even though I just told you the situation. And he was like, "Yeah, but that's not my problem. You need to get rid of him, and then we will go with you." And I was like, "Yeah, but he wants a lot of money." And he was like, "Yeah, you have to solve that." And I got some help with that, with our yearly report. I talked to the revisor,
The accountant?
the accountant, and he was like, "Okay, this is the situation. We have to solve that." Yeah, he smashed our. It went horrible. We will go out with a minus a lot of money, and it was like, so finally there I could take the talk with him and say, can you see the company isn't worth anything, and I'm not putting my signature in this yearly report because it's me as a CEO. This will look like it's my performance. So we have to find a solution, and we both have some money that we can get from JobVision if we go out. And I was like, I'm not going with this yearly report. And he was like, okay, what is the solution? And I was like, I don't know, but I have an idea. And I put up with 3 solutions that we split the company. A second solution was he will get his money, and maybe the apartment that he had that's on a little island that I don't want to have a part of, or I will get my part and walk away. And if none of those were negotiable, I will turn the company in for bankruptcy. And he was like, and I saw the sparkle in his eye when he saw the year report, and he was like, okay, I can get some money now. It's better than anything because he's going to turn it into bankruptcy. So he would lose his money there. So he's like, oh, I have to, this was a Friday and he has to use the weekend. And the investment group that I had in hand were like, if he's turning everything down, walk away and we start up from rock bottom. But it's always better to have a company to start from than build a new one. So I had my new job ready if he said no. So Monday morning he was like, I'm gonna take my money and the apartment on this little island. And I was like, holy guacamole. I was like, oh my God, I did it. I really did it. So the investor group just put the money in. We didn't have any agreement, anything. And I was just like, okay, you just put the money in the bank for him. Yeah, we'll get everything in line. And I was just, they were trusting me so much that I was just sending them emails. We have the agreement, and the lawyer called, this is not the way to go, and what is going on? And I was like, well, we have to get him out of the company, they were saying, so I just have to do something. He got his money, and he got the little island apartment, so that was great for me. And the new investors are in, and we have a strategy that we are going for, and hopefully it will go well.
Wow, what a tremendous story.
Yeah.
And you turned it into a win-win-win. Yeah. A win for your ex-partner, a win for you, and a win for your investors.
Yeah.
It's the best kind.
But I call it House of Cards because I have to play some cards that I didn't like. But sometimes you have to go further for the bigger cause, I think.
And with that, I want to thank you, Juliette. It's been a great pleasure to speak with you, and I hope that we can get together soon. And I wish you all the best for your fantastic company.
And thank you so much.
I wish Juliette all the best in her turnaround. She has clearly made a heroic effort. Whether it will ultimately be enough remains to be seen. Only time will tell. One thing, however, seems certain. The next time she considers entering a partnership, she will do so with far greater caution. Thanks to my guest and to all of our loyal listeners. Subscribe today so you don't miss upcoming conversations. And if you found this podcast valuable, please leave a review. It helps others discover the show and keeps the dialogue growing. For more information about Scale U and Scale U retreats, go to scaleu.org, where you can find the full library of podcasts, blogs, and additional resources. Thanks for listening. See you next time.